Well, well, well. New parts for the 64. Welcome back, everybody. Hope everyone is doing good. Yes, the front brake pads finally came in. Or brake shoes finally come in. Yeah, baby. And the biggest excitement about these, this is a little bit harder to find. 2 3/4 inch. The 2.5 inch, which are for the back, no problem to get. The 3-inch option for the front, which actually was for cop cars and a few other, like when they had cabs and stuff like that, they were 3-inch. But getting the 2 3/4 just aren't as, I guess, prevalent. They're not around as much. And Raybestos, I reached out to Raybestos originally, and it looks like the 337 PGs probably one of the most common pads ever made in the history of automobiles. I think they're discontinuing them. They're going to be gone. So hopefully I don't go through too many of them. They're getting harder and harder to find. Some of the sites that were in the $40 mark, of course, they're gone, and they keep working their way up. And now they are $90 for a pair of these front brake shoes. But of course, the 2 3/4 is what we need to fit this drum. They are huge. They are bigger, I think, than any truck ones that I've ever worked on. I'm surprised, but I guess without the anti-lock brakes of today's vehicles, they definitely want you to stop. So that is good. I might throw a quick little shot of rust paint on the inside of these before I put them on, just to stop that. Not that it's a big deal, but these are still looking good. Getting a little dusty. Getting a little dusty on there. So we're gonna have to give them a little dust off when they're done. But with the brake shoes, means we gotta break out new tools, or old tools, I should say, that I haven't used in many years. There we go. A little tool, a drum brake kit that I bought, probably about 18, 19 years ago. Now, before we jump right in, start putting these all together, I thought I'd spread out the 3 main components that are going on the front here. So to start off, of course, you got your shoes, got your brake shoes. But you have 2 kits here. Actually, there's going to be 3 kits, but that'll be towards the end when we do the back brakes. So on the front brakes, basically there's 2 kits. This kit over here, this is your self-adjuster. This is what adjusts the brakes to keep them, so as the liners wear down, you don't have to continually go under there, tighten them up all the time. This kit here helps maintain that. It's pretty simple. It does it for the most part by itself every time you press the brakes, but you can also put the vehicle in reverse and then aggressively, not lock them up, but aggressively use the brakes. In this kit here, with the help of this wire, get some tension springs, and our adjuster will help take up that slack. And this is a star wheel adjuster here. It moves in and out. We will be setting this by hand, of course, to start off, but it's in 3 pieces. You have your end cap, your star wheel, and of course your shaft on the back. But we'll get a little more into that as we start putting this together. And then these are just the components for the self-adjuster. And this is the locking mechanism so that when you do adjust the star wheel manually or with the automatic, it fits into one of the teeth and helps hold it there so it doesn't lose its adjustment. This here is just a retainer. This is the retainer pin that goes on top here. It'll help hold the shoes onto the lug that's on the backing plate. And of course we have our brake caliper or brake piston rods, the push rods, which activate it. Over on this side, we have our spring set that's going to be doing all the work, all the real work. These are just dust plugs in the bottom. They plug the holes where we're going to do the manual adjustment at first, just to get it close. And the reason why there's 2 is they only make one front backing plate and one rear backing plate, and they just swap them side to side. And the star wheels are color coded as well. You have white, or the silver for the right hand side, left hand side are gold. We'll see that when we do the other side later on. So yeah, that just covers up the spot that goes on there. You have your hold down rods, these little rods here, along with these cups, which lock them in place. They got a little star shape on the end there, which locks them onto those. Right there, that locks onto that shape. And of course, the spring goes between both of those, and that's what holds your shoe to the backing plate and stops the rattling. That keeps them nice and tight. Primary return spring, this is the biggest spring that pulls everything back together. When you push the brakes and the piston or the cylinder pushes the brakes out to stop you, when you let your foot off, this returns everything back to center. And then we have two more springs. One is your primary adjusting return spring, which holds the adjuster. And your other one is just a secondary return spring, which just works with everything to help pull everything back together, so your shoes aren't dragging on your drum all the time. That's just that's everything that's in the front. Of course, the cylinders are already on there. So they're called the slave cylinders. They work off the master cylinder, which is what's attached to the back side of your foot brake. So we're gonna get this all lined up, get things ready. The first thing we're gonna do with this adjuster, pop the cap off. We're gonna screw this all the way out. And you're either going to apply lithium grease to the threaded side in here, or dielectric, and also some in the cap to make sure these stay moving good. And we're also going to put a little dab inside the notch on each edge. Now it's time to get started. I've got my cap and my threaded piece well lubed. Not too much though. Brakes make a lot of dust, so we don't want too much in here. You'll see I got a little dab inside each spot, which will end up going inside the lining there for the adjuster. Sorry, got that on the wrong side, but that'll end up going in for the adjuster. And also my push pins for my cylinder. So the activation rods, got a little dab of grease in there. Now, one thing I didn't mention, the shoes themselves. There is no left-hand side and right-hand side of the car. When you get a set, there's two of them. It doesn't matter which ones you go. But working on them, there is a right hand and left hand, or a primary shoe and a secondary shoe. Now, contrary to what your brain would tell you, the primary shoe always has less lining. They're a little shorter. You can see if we put them together, see they're quite a bit shorter, almost 3/4 of an inch. And you would think that would make it the primary shoe, but it's not. The shorter lining is the primary shoe, and the primary shoe is always in front. So that is how we're going to start them off. So we're going to put in our push pins, get them back in here, and we're going to put on our shoes and squish everything together as best we can, pushing any air that's in here out the top. There's still going to be air in here, of course, but I mean just the majority of the air. Get out the top. I have the master brake cylinder open, and that'll just get everything as tight as we can to start. Hopefully that's a good angle for you guys. Just had to move my camera a little further to get a little closer. Now another thing I didn't mention, there's 3 spots on each side of the backing plate that rides on the shoes, and there's these little tabs around it. I just rubbed a little bit of the grease on there just to give them a little bit of something to wear in the first little bit, so it wears in there. But here at the top of the shoe, that's where your main lug is going to go, your pin. And what it is, you just fit the push rod on your slave cylinder. Make sure that's going to be in the right spot. Might just take a second to get them in the correct order. And then this just sits right up against the pin. And there we go. There we go. And it's going to take a little bit to push them in. And you know you're going to be correct size shoes. Like these are the 2 3/4, because the backings touch on both sides. You have just a hair of a gap back here for movement. And then of course, once we put our retainer on, it fits down over the secondary lip. Once that goes on there, it's got just a little bit of space in there to give it just a little bit of movement. Then of course our springs will be going on the tip of this pin. It's like a little mushroom, and that's going to help hold it all on. So that's just going to get in there first. And before we grab the other one, we're going to put on one of our locking pins. Okay, so both shoes are on, pushed together. Have my holders on here on both sides. And I went and I put on my retainer at the top to hold the top of those shoes on. Now, there's going to be a whole lot of me being in the way. So you're not going to get to see the perfect view of this anyway, but I'm going to do the best I can. You at least see where the springs are going anyway. So, all right, where are we at here? Next step, the adjuster. Remember, silver goes on the right-hand side of the car, gold adjusters go on the left. And the wheels always go towards the back of the car. So we're just gonna get that in there. We got it shrunk down as small as we can, so we don't have to stretch these springs too far to start. Yeah. The whole time, we're making sure we get everything pushed together right nice, so it's all centered where it should be. So there you are. It's our adjuster wheels on the bottom. Next is your little cam. That is for your tensioner. So the tensioner wire right now, we're just going to hook on the top and drop that out of the way. He's just going to be in our way if we mess around with it. This here goes up here at the top. And now we're going to put our first spring on. And it's the ones with the really long end and a funny little hook on the bottom. So the bottom hook goes in and down. So what that does is it holds that little lever in place, just like that. And then it stays away from the top and bottom edge so it can move freely. So now we got to get out the fancy little springy tool. And we are using this end with the bevel in it. That is going to go inside the spring. Put that bevel over the pin and hope we don't shoot something in our face. Come on, slide down there. It should be sliding. Might be a little tight. Oh, might be a little tight for my tool here. Let me just take a look here. Yeah, it's a little bit tighter of a bend in my tool. It's not going to the edge, and what's happening is it's wedging itself in there. So, I don't know if I can really do much about that. We'll try again here. I don't really want to grind that down. I might just have to approach it on a different angle. Of course, third time's a charm, and I wasn't recording. Man, that is tight to get in. So there's definitely an issue with these springs in my brake spring tool. You can see how tight it grabs as it tries to slide down. So unfortunately, she's no bueno. Gonna have to forego that. And went back to the tried and tested way is with a screwdriver. So win some, you lose some. But there's how the spring goes in. Holds my little guide wire, my wire guide in there. Up around the top. Scratched off a little bit of paint doing it. Then this will end up, when we're done here, it'll just fit in behind here and work its way down to the adjuster. But worry about that later. Now, for the other spring. And I think we're just going to go with the screwdriver trick again and hope that I don't snap my fingers. There we go. Top spring is on and in. Now we just did one quick little visual inspection to make sure both springs and everything are fitting in behind the head of that mushroom. I'll give that a little shot of paint when I'm done here, just to make sure. Just keep a little rust off it. Not that it matters. These things are going to be so rusty so fast. It's not a big deal. But everything is good there. Now, one thing I forgot to mention, is when you put your wire on, make sure it sits in the orientation so your hook is like inwards. It's going to be important when we get down there. Because now, where is it? We have our adjuster, which fits down in here. And this is where you're going to be able to see absolutely nothing. The wire hooks down there on it. And for this part, this is not the fun part. This is even worse than doing the other way. The other one. Because I think it's, which hole is it? Yeah, it's the big hole. Oh, where is it? What the? It's like the spring is too fat. It's hitting the back plate before I can put it inside. And I'm pretty positive it goes this way. Gonna have to check the book. Alright, so I was wrong. Spring goes this way. That's the way it's going. That's why it's right on top of this big bubble here. So that spring goes in there. This goes in place here. And then this is gonna be a pull and a half is what this is gonna be. I don't think. Oh, wait a minute. You know, I can't remember. I don't know if that end of the tool does that spring or not. No. No, I think I just always did this before with a pair of pliers. And again, hoping I don't slip off. I don't crack my fingers. There we go. There we go. We're in. Ugh. We're in and we're done. So there. Now we can get a better look at everything here. Yeah, you get a little rust in the back side of those nuts, but it's all coming off. So there you are. 2 springs on the top. Okay, your wire connector here for your tensioner. Goes all the way down here into your adjuster, your star wheel, and then you got your clamps where you hold backs on both sides. Now, with all that on there though, and everything done, now's the hope that the drum fits on. Hopefully everything was good. Brakes aren't too big. I measured them, everything should be the same as they come off it. Ugh. Perfectly smooth, perfect, nothing touching. Nothing touching at all. All right, there we are. I just threw just a couple washers on here and snugged down 2 of the lug nuts just with a wrench, just so I can adjust the brakes, because this side is done. It is ready. Oh, I can still see my little R for right hand side there. Just comes with the paint. Hopefully it doesn't show up too noticeable when I put the rims on. But yeah, so now it's time to adjust the star wheel, the adjuster on the back there, just to get it close. This will be staying on here like this until the brakes are bled. The brakes are bled, and there's nothing else left to do. So we're gonna get in there with a screwdriver, try to find that little star wheel, because that was always the fun thing back in the day, and just start giving her some clicks. And we wanna do it till we just hear the shoes starting to drag. And then what we're gonna do, and then we're gonna go past that. So once we hear them starting to drag, we're gonna go probably 4 or 5 more clicks just to kind of force everything into place where it needs to be. And then we'll dial it back off just a little bit. And then hopefully everything is good. And when we bleed this thing that we've done the first time. All right, now just, you can hear a little clicking. That is me adjusting the star wheel. We're just gonna get it close. We're gonna do it until that drum just starts to drag a bit. It's gonna take a while. It is easier with 2 hands available. But we'll just keep doing that for a bit and just get them dragging. All right. Can you hear that? It's just barely starting to drag in the spot. They're just touching. Now, of course, the shoes in here, they could be all kind of pushed on the one side. Oh, I think I cut myself somewhere. Sorry about showing some blood. Must have whacked a knuckle. But anyway, yeah, the shoes are going to be like, they can be kind of pushed over to one side, pushed up too much down. They're not centered in the center of that drum. So we got them right there, right where they're just starting to scrape. We'll leave it at that. The next step will be to bleed these things and really push those brakes out. And that'll help center them where they need to be. Then we will let it off. We'll see how they drag. If they're dragged too much, then we got to back that wheel off and, of course, pump them again and back and forth until we get them so that you don't really want them dragging. They're brand new, so a little scuff is all right at first. But really, you want them to almost be nothing there. When you let the brakes off, it should be on the inside, almost the thickness of a sheet of paper all the way around there, and that would be considered good. So, let's go over and do the other side. And here we are, back onto the right-hand side. Nice. This one's more centered. This is a little better on this side. But there we are. We're just grabbing. Now we're set. Well. Jamie Steffen from Mega Parts. Did you do me good? Or did I get done dirty? 100% sealed. I have not looked in this yet. I'm happy it arrived. I was getting a little worried for a bit there. A little skeptical. But you know what? We are going to find out right now if Paulie's going to have a good evening or a bad evening. Oh, you have no idea how nervous I am to see if this is actually gonna work and gonna be what I need. Well, here we go. You are seeing them the first time I am. Man, they look right. 1964 to 71, all 11-inch Mopar rear brakes. You know what they do? They look exactly like they should. Could it be? Oh, and I got lots more clips too. And you know what? The exact same clips that came in my spring kits. Man. Oh. I'm smiling. I gotta smile ear to ear here, people. Man, that looks nice. I think I'm almost positive that is correct. This would be the right hand side. Nope. This is the left hand side. This would be the right hand side. Well, let's get a brake caliper, see if they fit. There we go. Man, I think we have her, boys and girls. I think we finally got the last secret piece to the puzzle. That is a spring tensioner for the clip. Of course, the clip gets forced on there. We're going to wait on that for a bit. Not going to put this on permanent until I get it in there. But I think we finally got her. Man, that looks nice. Whew. Okay, you know what? We're going to jump right into this and get this stuff starting to get installed. I am beyond words here, beyond happy. This is just awesome. So again, we're on our rear shoes. Got the longer linings. Leading shoe gets the shorter one. Still seems odd. It's just the way it works. So, first things first. Get that in. You know what? I'm going to put a little bit of lithium on there. It's a little snug. Imagine this has like a varnish that's put on these to help stop them from rust, and I'm sure it's a little bit in there, but I don't want to scratch it off too much. So I'm just going to put just a little tiny dab of lithium on here. Not much. Just to give it a little help. Oh yeah. Way better, way better. Let me get the spring washer. And then a little horseshoe clip, if I can get it in there. Gonna need a, oh, here we go. Gonna need those pliers right here. See if we can get that in there. Without catching a finger, that would be nice too. That'd be ideal. Ideal situation, not pinching a finger. Up in there. I might have to move this over to the vise to help hold that together while I try to pinch this in. Oh, there we go. There we are. Beauty. Now, why Raybestos or any of these companies can't sell this as a kit, you know, including the bar that goes between these, I don't know, but that is her. I don't know if it really matters if that clip is upside right or upside down. I don't know if that really matters or not. But there we go. There's one. I just got to mirror the opposite side. Remember, this is the right-hand side, pulling this way. So we just got to do the other one on the other side. All right, emergency brake cable. The long one. This is the one, of course, that's going to go all the way across the axle, up to the front, and there's a special hanger there that this fits into. And I get a strange-looking little clip that holds that on. But on this side, this is what we're looking for here. This end piece fitting inside here somehow, one way or another. I have to figure this out. But the end of this somehow is going to stay in there. Maybe force keeps it in. I don't know. But we're going to figure it out here pretty quick. All right, here we are. So we got both shoes on. Of course, our leading shoe, the short one, that would be our primary, and our secondary, which is the bigger one, is on there. Now you can see in behind here, we have my actuator, which I have pulled all the way forward, because now the emergency brake cable got thrown, kind of looped over here. We got to feed this through the back side of the backing plate, in behind both shoes, and try to clip it right down, right into there on the back. Now, there's not a, I don't really know how it stays in there. There's not really anything to hold it, but what there is, there's like a bump that's on this edge here. Once this clip goes in, the end of the emergency brake cable, there's nowhere else for it to go. It's barely thick enough for the wire to get by. So it's not thick enough for this big lead end or steel end they put on there. And that's hopefully going to hold it on. I'm pretty sure that's how it goes. So, just going to get under here, feed that through, see what it looks like. Alright, so emergency brake cable is installed. So it just comes through the back side of the back plate. And it's got this funky little clip here with all these teeth on it. Once you push it in, it's almost permanent. I'm sure you could get it out if you needed to, but there's a lot of teeth around that spring open when you put it in. Now it also got the spring, which does two things. Helps protect the inner wire from rubbing on the back plate, the metal into the metal. But it's also, this is the return spring to help push it back. So if I grab the end of my cable and I apply my emergency brake, there's the actuator arm there. And we'll get to it later, but there's a bar going across the top that pushes out on the top of the brake shoe. And then that just returns it back to zero. So that works pretty darn good. It works right in there. Awesome. Actually, you've got a bad angle. You're not really seeing the full movement of it here. Let's see if we can get you around here. There you go. Now you can really see it coming out. So yeah, that's it. That's it to the emergency brake. That's all I needed was that one piece. So, well, everything else is just the same as the rest of it. Oh, no, it's not, actually. I'm going to get the strut, the actuator strut. Let's get that ready to get in there. All right, here's the strut bar that goes in here. Everything's kind of drooping a little bit. Not a big deal. We'll take care of that when we get our springs on. But I don't want to be cranking springs down tight until I get this all in and situated. So, there's two ends here, of course. There's a longer end with a spring and a short end. The short end goes to the secondary shoe. Spring end goes away from the actuator arm for the emergency brake. So that goes forward. And they kind of cut a funky shape in them. This does two things. One, it gets around the hub bump that's in here. And it also brings it out just nice, so it makes a nice curve and clearance around that brake cylinder, just underneath of it. And all we're going to do is get the spring engaged on one end. There we go. It's going to sit a little floppy in here for now until I get the main springs on. You can see the gap up here. But this will tighten up. There we go. Ooh, just like that. And that bar will be in there nice and snug. No flopping around. And that's going to be the actuator when we're done. And we'll show you how it works. Pushing open that forward leading edge brake to engage the park brake. And there we go. We have the right side complete. Good tension on our strut bar. Spring is in there good on this side. Got just a little gap before it touches the shoe, which is okay. That's what this little spring is for. That's to take it so it doesn't rattle all the time. And of course, the bottom, same adjuster like the front. Everything's set up. We have our emergency brake cable in. And if I can grab this with some pliers because it's hard. There you go. Oh, you can see how those brakes push. Now it's not just, this one here probably does the majority of the holding power. This isn't stopping power. This is your park brake, emergency brake. But this is the majority of stopping power. When I pull this lever, the cable, and actually it's a lower lever, it's pushing on the top of the control arm or the actuator arm. And what it's doing is it's shoving this rod, this torsion bar, out that way, of course causing the brakes to open. But it's also, because it's cammed on the back here, it's also causing the back one to try to force its way open as well too. Now, there's quite a bit of movement here that this can open and close. But again, the majority is here. The back kind of more or less takes up the space, the center of this one. It's only when you use your brakes, your foot brakes, where the piston is opening on both sides, that you get more contact and more force on both sides of the rotor, or the drum. So, got the rest of my brakes together, everything on. Now I'm just going in for the emergency brake cables. So they go through this bracket here. They have a little lip on them with a notch. You can see the good little clip that goes in behind there. One of these hairpin clips, I guess you call them. One of those. The cable just pops right in. Nothing crazy. Just like that. And we just got to snap the pin in. And then there's a little Y bracket that grabs two of these, then goes into a single. And it just goes up underneath the car. And it goes, there's one hole over there with a cross member that it goes between. It goes through, but other than that, it just hangs freely underneath here. That's the way it was when I took it apart. So that's the way it's going back together. But I'm going to pop that clip off. And then it's time to throw some fluid in that rear diff. So for the lube of choice, I decided to go Pennzoil. Not 100% sure why. It wasn't expensive. Wasn't the cheapest, but just what I'm going with. If I sound funny, it's because I'm all bent and twisted here. So we're going to shove it right in that hole there until she starts squirting out. I got a little nozzle on the end. Now in the first one, I got my little 4-ounce bottle of friction modifier, the Sure Grip Anti-Slip. Limited slip additive. It's in there, shaking up, doing good. Because it says this rear end only takes 4 quarts. So that's not even 2 liters. Which doesn't seem like much, but really I guess it's not that deep. And like, it's not a truck, so it doesn't have to have that much. We're going to put it in, it just still starts leaking out. I'm going to leave my tray under here. And then I'm probably going to put a tray on each side of the axle. Not that I don't have faith in my work or the seals that went in there, but you never know. So I'll fill this up, get a couple trays, we'll start turning it over, get that limited slip juice working its way through the gears and all the plates again, and hopefully she'll be smooth. And there we go. The rear diff is full. Now I ended up having to take off the other drum here. Just having them set where they just scuff on the brakes. It was too much for me to turn it over. I couldn't get it moving at a good speed. So with it off, I was able to get a pry bar locked in between here. Then I could just go round and round and round. I did that for about 10 minutes. Went backwards. Got backwards is hard to go against the transmission. But got it around good. And I ended up putting in the 2 full liters. Now, originally it said it was 4 pints. So that's like 1.8 liters. But it also said that puts it at about a ½ inch below. So with the 2 full in there, I'm almost level with the threads. Maybe a little bit too much. Though I got lots of room for breathing there. I don't have to worry about it squirting out anywhere. And then it still has to work its way out to the ends here probably a little better and settle out. And of course my diff is hanging. So it's a little bit leaning towards the back. So some of that will go into the front neck. But even though my bearing is almost a third of the way into the oil, so it was able to lubricate itself as well too. And it also makes the bottom of that seal under the oil. Now, like I always say, it's not that I don't have faith in my work, but you never know what's going to happen. So I am letting this sit overnight, and I am going to make sure I got a container on each side right under the edge there, just in case those seals leak. I don't need to wake up to a liter or ½ a liter of oil all over the floor there. Make sure it's in the right spot. Yeah, it's perfect. That'll drip right in there perfectly. Because, yeah, things happen. You never know. Could be bad seal. We already know we get parts on this thing that aren't the spec. But also, even though I did my best sliding the shafts and maybe I dragged the seal a little bit, maybe I bumped it, you never know. This is just a little bit being safe than sorry. So yes, pie plates. $1.25. There's 6 of them. You don't get much cheaper than that for catch trays. And this is, again, I'm not anticipating any problems, I hope. But oil is one thing into the floor. I have some spots. I actually have a grease spot over here where I greased the big connections. and a little bit of the oil has come out of the grease when it got hot in here. Yeah, it sucks. It's in the concrete. But when it comes to brake fluid, man, this stuff is like, it'll penetrate anything, and it is hard to get out. So we're going to catch as much as we can if it drips. So all I do is I got one under each wheel. Going to put one under the main connection down here for where the fronts come together. And we'll do one kind of below where it drips from the brake caliper, or the master brake cylinder, though really it's just going to drip on everything else and kind of go everywhere, but we'll do what we can. So let's get prepped. Let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do before we bleed the brakes, we're going to prep the cylinders. Now, what that is, this is just what I like to do. Here is the bleed screw that is in every cylinder with the wheels. You got a little tiny hole. That is where we're going to be drawing the fluid through. The air that get out and coming right through the top. Then of course, tapered point, that's what seals it down inside. Now, most people don't do anything with this. I like to put a little grease on here. Now we're going to be careful. We're going to make sure the grease is above the bleed line, just in the thread, just a little bit. And I'm accomplishing two things, I hope. One is that it's not seized into that brake cylinder in however long when I decide that I want to remove it. But the second thing is, even though this is gravity, this is going to be a gravity feed down to there, we are using a vacuum pump. And the threads alone, once you break this free, you can wiggle this. So when I'm running the vacuum pump and I'm pulling the fluid through, I'm going to see air coming as well. I want to make sure it's air coming from the line and not air passing by the threads, because that's what's going to happen. Someone's going to go by the threads up in the line. A little bit of grease, just a little bit, is going to make almost like a seal, and it'll just make it harder for air. It can still pull some air, of course, but it's just going to make it harder for air to get down. And as the bubbles get smaller and smaller, it's going to get to a point where if it's that one little bubble here and there all the time that's coming through, I can assume that it's coming through the threads. If it's continual bubbles, well, that's probably where it's pulling it down through the line. So all I'm trying to do is eliminate how much air I'm going to be pulling with the vacuum gauge. Even though, like I said, this is a pretty simple system. There's no equalizing valve or anything like that, no ABS. It is going to be a direct gravity draw all the way down right to the cylinder. Now, we will be starting with the front first. I'll put a little fluid in the back just so I'm not running that piston dry. But we're running the fronts first, and we're always going to start the furthest away from the master cylinder. So I'll run this one, then we'll do the other one, and then when we're done this one, we're going to come back here again. Because even though they're pulling from the same pot here, once they get to the splitter, they're going separate ways. There is a possibility that some of that vacuum can draw a little bit of air out of the line that's not going to have anything in it at first. So we'll make sure we get a little bit of fluid on both sides, and then we'll do it again and finish it off. Now, this is what I mean by a very little bit. Yeah, you can see where it's been sticky and it's stuck up, but I'm just filling the threads, and I'm above the bleed hole, and also I got nothing on the point where it seals inside the cylinder. You don't want to get any of this down in the cylinder, only on the threads. So we're starting off here on the front right. I'll get this in. I'm actually going to do all four while I'm at it, just so I only have to do it one time. And hopefully things are going to go smooth. All right, all four cylinders. Bleed screws are prepped. Got my pump ready to go. Funny thing, all three of those nozzles, the tips here that you're supposed to put on the bleed screws, they're all way too big. But the hose pops on nice and tight. It's snug to get on there. And these are a little tight to get to. It is right here, I can't even stick my finger between the nipple and the control arm going up there. So, it is just enough though I can get my hose in there. So now it's time to put some fluid in the master cylinder. Remember, we're working with the front, so it's the bigger one at the back. This here ends up actually being the front brakes, the bigger reservoir. So I'm going to put a little bit in here at first, just so I'm not running the piston dry inside there. But we're going to fill this, it's going to be pretty full. We're going to almost bring it right up. We don't want it to bubble coming over, but we're going to put it up to the top because it's going to take just about most of that, I think. All right. First thing, we're checking for leaks right at the top. Now, of course, no pressure here yet or anything, but you know what? If it's leaking just sitting there, then there's going to be definite leaks later on. So that is a good place to start. Don't have to worry about it dripping through. So let's get the vacuum pump on the far side. Just went and checked the cylinder, the master cylinder. We are down about 1/4 inch. So that's good. We're past the connections where the left and the right meet and come from the cylinder. So I double checked that for leaks. There's nothing there yet. So we're somewhere between here and there. Probably getting pretty close to start filling the cylinder soon. I got no fluid coming up the line yet. So just keep pumping away. All right, this is definitely taking a little longer than I thought. I don't even know if I can get this in the frame though, but I just started getting fluid bubbling up. There you go. Hopefully you can see that coming. There it is. So getting some fluid, a lot of air still. We're gonna keep going until we start getting this little tank probably half full. All right, so I've been going at this for a while on that side, concentrating on the right-hand side, and I can't get the foam to stop. So I decided to come over here and take a look. And you can see I got quite a puddle in the tray there. And it all made it in the tray, which is good. I got a leak. Can you see the wetness at the top of the connection? Right off the main line coming from the master cylinder. That connection is leaking there. And I snugged it up again pretty good, and it's still weeping. So, two things. One, there's a little piece of dirt stuck in there in the seat, which I highly doubt it. I was pretty meticulous about keeping that clean. The second thing is, my flare may be a little bit off. Now, if I look at this, I can see I'm on just a hair of an angle going into there. So unfortunately, I gotta pull that off. Worst thing is, it's full. So gonna have to get my little pump over here. Gonna pump this out, take this off, clean it up, drain it. It's gonna be a mess, but I don't have much of a choice. So there's no way I'm gonna focus on that, but it looked good. It looked fine, just like the other end. It looked like everything was good and clean, making good contact. I can see the seal line that it made when I tightened them in. And this one, I don't know, it looked good. But, did it again, just gave it a little squish. Just blew out the line. Now I'm just gonna, can't really see down there, but I'm gonna get my, get a bright light, double check the fitting down in there as well too. It does look well visually, but I wanna really try to get in there close and see what I can find out. We'll put her back together and we'll go for take two. Look at that. Way better when you're not pulling 90% air, only 10% fluid. Look at that. I'm on my second, this will be my second little hopper. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pull two of these through, and then move over on the other side and do the other one. Now you only see in the line shots of this stuff coming through because it's going up by my hand, then it's dipping down, then coming up again. But there's no foam in it, and that's the biggest thing. The last, when I was doing it before, it just stayed foam the whole time in the line. I could not get a steady stream. So yeah, I'm gonna pull in a good vacuum here and go from negative 20 down to negative 15 and hold it there for a bit. So it's doing really good pulling that through. And like I said, do one more of these, then we'll jump over onto the other side. Well, my friends, it's finally done. Oh, what a time. Leaks, more leaks. That stupid little valve down in there, every line leaked. And It was nothing to do with my flares. It's just I have to put them singing tight, just like a guitar string, just cranked on there. Harder, it's to the point where normally I would have stopped because I thought I was going to break that brass block, but if it broke, it broke. It didn't matter. It had to seat on that. So they are tight now. Got things, all the air out. I even got a little brake buddy that I made. Well, not made, but used. And I do have good brakes. I can turn nice and easy here. Come in the car. This is my brake buddy. Just a reversed jack. Second in. Put the brakes on. I get a good hard pedal. Yeah. Just wedge him there between the pedal and the dash. We are solid. Got brakes. Woohoo! We are good. Boom! Hard lock on the brakes. And I am finished. I am finished the brakes. Had one more little leak over there. That was kind of wet from, I guess, overnight. So the paint come off. So once I'm for sure know this is all done, I'll spray that down, brake clean, and clean it off. But I had no leaks there. The pedal, I can only get the pedal down like halfway by hand now. I got a crank on it. She's a hard pedal, which is good. We're good and topped up there. Still no dripping on the front end. So I'm gonna leave this for about, well, however long it takes me to clean up a mess. I'm gonna leave it and hope I get no more drips and hope everything is good. Behind here, we are. Where we at? We're good there. No leak in there either. Oh, I do believe we may be done. So, over a 20-minute or 15-minute hold, there didn't seem to be any leaks. So, we're gonna pump it again, which I did. I just pumped it again, got the clamp on there. And we're gonna leave it overnight. Now, I don't expect it to hold all the pressure overnight. That's not what I'm thinking. That's not what it's designed to do. Should it? I don't know. But I highly doubt it, right? It is just rubber seals and stuff. But I'm gonna let it sit all night here. I'm gonna check it first thing in the morning. See what it's like. Again, check for leaks. If there's no leaks, I can call the brakes done. There'll probably be one more bleed before this is finished, of course. Now, what I'll have to do is I now need to pump my brakes and then reset my drums. I gotta get the adjuster set so it's pushing it all the way out. The way they're moving right now, there's a good possibility that, you know, one is touching on an edge, but when I push the piston, it's not enough to fully engage it all. But it's too hard to turn by hand. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we get this set close to I can just barely turn it by hand, get the wheels back on it, and out the door under its own power. And with doing that, I'll be able to apply the brakes, try to ease the car forward, back it up, put the brakes on hard, forward, put the brakes on hard, start setting them in, getting those drums and shoes where they should be. And hopefully it stops. Hopefully it's not across the field and into the fence. We have neutral, not to worry. There's lots of room for me to push the neutral button or shut it off and coast around in a circle. No worry of that. Though, of course, it'd be really nice to stop because, of course, that's the whole purpose of this. And I'm so happy. This is unbelievable. Mechanically, I think, well, theoretically, well, I shouldn't say that. Mechanically, basically everything's done. I still need bushings. I still need my bushings for the front of this car. Still got to find those. This one could be used. The other one, there's almost nothing left to it. I still need to find these two. That is what's missing off the front end of this car, is two of these stupid bushings that hold the sway bar and the racks come down, or the pinions that come down. That's the only thing stopping me from completely finishing the mechanical work of the 64. But you know what? Now that I think of it, there is something very important. I don't have a throttle pedal. That's a necessity for sure. I think I might have to get a shoestring going across. Something my brother actually mentioned. He said the first thing he'd be doing having a shoestring throttle to run this thing for the first time. So you know what? I might have to do that. I'm gonna big purchase. That's not a big purchase, but the purchasing of parts towards the 64. Just gonna tone it down a little bit here for a little while. Still got lots of other stuff to do. Now that all this mechanical stuff's going, I can move it, hopefully. Time to get back on the seats. I got the bottom half to do. I still got the rear half seat to go. Strip it down, pull it apart, wash it, clean it, coat it. Got to get some foam, some old burlap or some old, I don't know, heavy cloth to wrap the first layer, get ready for the skins. And if the weather cooperates, if it cools down, like it's just so hot out here still, it's time to start actually painting some parts. But that's it. That's all I got for you today. Brakes were a snap for you guys. Yeah, it's about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Still the same thing. Pump the brakes, walk all the way around, crack it, walk all the way back, pump back and forth like, I don't know, 20 times. Anyway, feeling good. Feeling good. Love you all. Thanks so much for the journey. Catch you again later.